Hello everyone, I am Jesse, or GameOverJesse. Here with us is the mighty Daniel. And the very Chublima. Is that an adjective? Chubish? Can you be Chubish?
Doesn't get more chubby than Chublima.
Yeah.
That's pretty chubby.
So, in the past, we've talked a lot about some of the more popular videos on the channel. We're talking about canceled Zelda games and stuff like that. And we used to go through lists and stuff, and then it turned into like lists of theories or whatever, or our favorite dungeons, whatever. But today we're going to be doing 5 developers who want to make a Zelda game. So people from Square Enix, Ubisoft, or whatever that at one point either presented a demo or something to Nintendo that they wanted to work on, or an idea, or they've just come out and stated in an interview that they just want to work on a Zelda game, sometimes even mentioning that Zelda game. So we put together 5 with sort of a bonus at the end, so technically 6, I guess. Well, technically 7. Yeah. So anyways, starting off, Daniel, who is our number 1? Can you see? You should remember the story behind this. Go ahead and tell us about it, if you can remember.
It's Ubisoft. They make video games.
Yeah, but what did they want to make?
They put together, if I'm remembering the right story, the Wind Waker GBA prototype, didn't they? Is that the right one?
Yeah, the 2D Wind Waker remake.
2D Wind Waker. Yeah, the D-make almost. I don't know. It was a neat concept, but it's like I didn't like it. I feel like this is how the podcast goes. Here's a neat thing, and I'm like, I don't like it. But no, they made a prototype for, and I think they had like screenshots of Link in Dragon Roost Cavern, looking very similar to how he looks in Minish Cap, and Nintendo rejected their proposal probably because they were already working on. I think we discussed it when we talked about it on the podcast. They were working on Minish Cap already, and that was like already in the works, or is maybe another 2D Zelda game with a very similar art style. And also, what Wind Waker is definitely a 3D game.
Yep.
Yeah, like how would you make the Wind Temple work 2D when that big central room, like that would be a challenge to do.
Like when you have to make your way up Ganon's tower in 2D, like that would be weird, I think. And then there's the part where you have to run up the circling stair, or the spiral staircase, while the bird's chasing you. And I don't know how they would be able to do that, because in 2D Zelda games it's like you go through the steps and then it like cuts to the next room and then Link's coming out of the door or whatever. So in this they would have to somehow make it to where like the camera would rise up with you, which could work, like they do that in A Link Between Worlds. But A Link Between Worlds is a 3D game played like a 2D perspective. Yeah, so they can easily do that with 2D sprites. I don't know how you would successfully do some of this stuff.
I'm sure the GBA could handle something like that, because it's actually a pretty good little handheld. But I can definitely see why. Like, there was just too many things that wouldn't work. And at that point, if you're having to make so many changes and compromises, you just should make a different Zelda game and not demake an existing one. And also, this was like what, 2004, so it was pretty recent after Wind Waker had come out too. So just didn't seem like there was much of a point to doing that. But that's too bad. That was the Ubisoft. I don't know. I always say Ubisoft, and people are like, Ubisoft, you sound like a twat. And so
I always look forward to their conferences. I think it's Aisha
I like Ubisoft
Taylor
too.
Is it Aisha Taylor? Always does it. She's like really, really tall.
I don't know, cool. But I like Ubisoft. They make some really neat games. Like they've made some of my favorite games, like Mario Rabbids and Starlink. And one of my favorite GameCube games, the first, what was it? Prince of Persia: Sands of Time was one of my favorite GameCube games back in the day. That was an Ubisoft game too. The other
Yeah.
ones kind of got a little. They kind of really ran with it and tried to make it a little too. They try to really run with the edge factor. But the first game, they just had it just right. I really liked that game. So, yes, Ubisoft are good in my books.
Yeah,
I guess
Nintendo's
they also did Assassin's Creed.
Yeah. So Ubisoft they've made like they worked with Nintendo to make the Mario Rabbids game.
Yeah.
And then recently they did the I guess it wasn't that recent, but they did the Star Fox stuff in Starlink.
Yeah, I mean that just
Battle
came out
for
last year.
Atlas, right?
Yeah, that's pretty
Okay.
new.
Yeah.
That's
so
still pretty. Yeah.
if they presented this idea now, I think it would have a better chance, since they did good work with Mario Rabbids and they did good work with Star Fox, which Star Fox was just like a mini thing. It wasn't like a full Star Fox game, but I think they have Nintendo's good grace enough to where if they came out with an idea to do something, like if they wanted to do Wind Waker now as like a 2D thing, I think Nintendo might let them do it, or let them work on an
Maybe.
entirely new Zelda game or something.
Maybe, but I mean, I don't know. Like again, I just don't see the point in making Wind Waker a 2D game.
Yeah.
Like, you really want to, you can take the C stick, crank the C stick down to shift the camera above Link, and play it that way.
Yeah. Tubes, would you like to take the highlighted one? It's really short.
The highlighted one.
Yeah.
Oh, I was actually looking at this. I think that this would be really cool.
Okay.
Let's see.
So I don't really understand any of what I'm looking at, so let me take a look. This is from Nintendo Live. The man behind the Wonder Boy, Dragon's Trap remake, would love to tackle Zelda 2. Very cool. So I took a look at Wonder Boy, the Dragon's Trap, and it just has such a fun little style. Like, I don't know how to describe how much I love the style of this game, and I feel like to do a Zelda 2 in this style, like Zelda 2 needs to be remade badly.
It does need to be remade, and they need to.
I love
more save points, and remove the floating laser shooting dog heads, and then it's perfect.
Wait, what needs to be?
There's these enemies in Zelda 2. The people who watch my stream probably know me yelling the term "the dog heads" because I got so angry about them. But there's this enemy in Zelda 2 is a floating dog head that shoots lasers.
I wonder if it was the inspiration for the flying guardians, because they fly around and shoot lasers.
True, but they don't. Okay, the problem is not the enemy itself; it's the way they're put into the game, because they come at you in like groups, and they shoot lasers, and they come at you, and they don't just come at you in a straight line. Then they'll go down, and then they'll go back up. Not like a wave pattern, like those guys from Castlevania. No, they'll just go in a straight line down, up, and then they'll shift down, and they'll go in a straight line for a little bit, then they'll shift up. The problem is, if it was just them all coming from the same direction, that would be fine. But when you have like 6 coming from you at each side, there's literally no way to avoid being hit, no matter how good you are, because your shield can only be on one side of your body, and it just makes me so mad. So, yeah, but people watching me stream when I was doing Zelda 2 probably remember all the rage from the dog heads. But take those out and just fix that problem, and Zelda 2 would be so much better of a game just with that gone. So
Oh my god, I dropped my phone again.
I'm sorry for rambling. This game really looks, the Wonder Boy game, what is it called? Is it Wonder Boy?
Yeah, Wonder Boy, the Dragon's Trap.
It looks brilliant. I love the art style.
I love it. I love so much of it. I want to know more about it, and why haven't I known anything more about it until now?
Yeah, well,
it's got this great like cartoon like style, like old school Disney.
Yeah,
you know, yeah,
So-
like. Yes. Sorry, Jesse.
No, I.
Right, are you okay?
Yeah.
I was waiting for Daniel.
I'm sorry. I was
accidentally
waiting for
interrupted.
you.
All right. Well, anyways, so I went to their wiki, and it's really weird. I don't know if it was just a re-release, but like their last game games, it looks like, was in 2008, and they were all like Wii Virtual Console games. So I guess that was just like moving older games to it, and that was in 2008. And then in 2014 is their next game, and it releases on the PlayStation 4, but only in Japan. And it's like there's such a long gap there. Like there's a 6-year gap, and they didn't release anything, and then what they did release was for the PlayStation 4. So it's like, I don't know if they're just not working on anything now, or if it's just like a small team that just does it in their free time or something. I don't really know. But
maybe they... Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, like, it's interesting. And from the trailers and stuff from their games, it looks like it would be... To see, like, a Zelda 2 in that style, because I'm always thinking, like, what other style could Nintendo do? And it's like, well, if they did that in HD, like, that would be a pretty cool style. So
I mean, like we see with Link's Awakening, that's sort of like almost.
See,
there we go. Like this.
Cute it is.
Yeah. But we see with like Link's Awakening, like this sort of almost like little toy box style. And then now this, like this sweet hand drawn style. I love it.
I think this is very cute, and I think that this is something they should do.
Yeah, I honestly think Zelda would look great like this.
Yeah.
And especially Zelda 2 with its weird side-scrolling perspective. You okay?
So, like, where that looks like really child-friendly and cartoony and stuff, and then Zelda 2's... Yeah, and then, like, Zelda 2's just, like, known for being one of the hardest games. So it's like you go into this and be like, oh, it looks like a cool little neat kids game, and it looks fine. You go into it and it's like, no, there's dog lasers everywhere.
But like Cuphead is like this great cartoony looking game, right? And it is
not kid friendly. No,
and it is hard. So isn't the
Overworld song about the devil? In Cuphead?
I don't know.
I don't remember.
But I'm just saying, like, you know, the game doesn't have to look ridiculous to be ridiculous.
So our next game is
good words.
Also a remake of Zelda 2. The main developer for the Capcom game Mega Man's. The Mega Man games.
Mega Man's.
He now works at Indie Creates, and he has mentioned that he would also really like to work on a Zelda game. So I think that would be interesting, because I think he worked on Zelda like it's the same guy that worked on the Capcom Zelda games.
He said Zelda 2 as well, didn't he?
Yeah, Keiji Inafune. So, if we did a video where we all kept mispronouncing his name, so it's really funny. But he'd worked on all of the, like, he was the head person in charge of all of the Capcom Zelda games, and now he wants to make another Zelda game, specifically a remake of Zelda 2, which is kind of interesting because they began with the remake of Zelda 1. For the Game Boy Color, and then that turned into the Oracle games, which now there's a rumor going around that they're being remade. So, like, if I was a conspiracy theorist and just went by speculation, I could say the guy that made the Oracle games now wants to work on a Zelda game to remake something. And there's also a rumor about the Oracle games getting a remake. So if I was just going off speculation alone from those two facts, I would be like, well, if there's a remake of the Oracle games, then it would make sense to get the guy that originally made them, who now wants to work on a Zelda game, to be the one to remake them, because he would understand them better than anyone. So I think that would be interesting, and it would be cool to see it in the Mega Man art style, or not Mega Man, Metroid, Mega Man's cousin, Metroid, the orange one, that guy.
The orange Metroid?
Yeah, him.
The robot.
Him. Yeah, it's Mega Man's cousin, right?
Yeah, the robot.
Like,
It's
yeah,
from Metroid.
They both shoot out of their arm cannons. They're just different colors. They're basically the same guy. It's like when you pick a game and someone else like picks the same character, but they're player 2, and they get a different color scheme. That's basically who they are, right? Mega Man and Metroid are kind of like the same guy, right?
No. Also, I just had a moment where my mind blown, guys. There's something on the screen, and I went to wipe it off. Apparently, the laptop I'm using right now is a touchscreen.
Oh,
you didn't know that?
That blew my mind. Anyways, continue.
Yeah.
That's why I was making faces. I was like,
I think the people in the chat were confused, guys. We were joking. We know about Samus being a woman, and that's
Zelda
is not
N64.
Metroid, and that she's not a robot named Metroid.
And it's not Mega Man's cousin.
I'm pretty sure his name is Metroid.
No, see, Zelda N64 fan says Metroid is a girl, though. So, like, I don't know if he's adding
So
to the joke.
are you telling me that Sheik is also a girl? Sorry, it was just when we had melons on. I just thought that was the funniest thing. I love
Poor
melons.
melon.
Yeah. You called him? Did you call him melons too?
I called him melons because you call him melons.
I just always say melon.
It makes sense because his name is Melon Speed Runs. So you go melons eed runs.
Melons? No, it's.
Oh, sorry, no, that's peed.
Runs.
Yeah. So, anyways,
when Melon runs, when he goes to the bathroom, it's Melon's pee.
the last one that we covered was the Square Enix director saying he would.
George in the chat says samosa. Gotta get our names right.
I can't wait for the new Samosa game to come out.
Yeah. So
Samosa returns.
I need my samosa amiibos.
Yeah. So
David, why did you have to break him? Or sorry, not David. It was Jorge. George? I don't know how to pronounce your name. It starts with a J.
Did you say Jorge? I guess if Samus is Samosa, then just Jorge.
I don't know how names are pronounced. I'm sorry.
Yeah. So the most recent one that we talked about, I guess this would be our number 4 now. The Square Enix Final Fantasy 15 director said that he would like to work on a new Zelda game. He didn't specify a remake of any certain game. He just said he would love to work on a Zelda game. And we got a video talking about it, so we don't really need to stay on this too long, but would you guys mind like a Final Fantasy 15 looking Zelda game? Or like that Square Enix style?
Nah, I'm good. No thanks.
Alright, and you choose.
Sorry. Sorry.
Tubes?
What?
What about me?
Yeah, would you
Zelda game to look like Final Fantasy 15.
Yeah, the Square Enix director said he wants to work on a Zelda game. So if you look at his past games, they all have that like highly detailed anime game art style. So if he worked on one, I would imagine he would just continue that art style.
So for me, okay, so Legend of Zelda, I think, in a Final Fantasy style would be awesome, very cool, very detailed, very fun. Would definitely not feel like a Zelda game. I feel like it would probably be more of like a it would be like a fan fiction game, a fan-made game. It would not be a Zelda game. But with that as well, if they did something more like Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles, I could see them doing that style for a Legend of Zelda game, because that's more cutesy, more chibi feeling, and very different compared to like traditional Final Fantasy game styles.
Yeah. Wasn't there a Crystal Chronicles on the GameCube that was multiplayer?
Yeah, they're porting it to Nintendo Switch, I believe. I don't know when, how, or why, but apparently it's coming to Nintendo Switch.
That would be awesome.
I totally misheard that. But it was in a direct.
I would love to see a Four Sword style game like that. But
yeah,
yes.
that's what I think. I think that would be their best approach if they wanted to do a Zelda game. Let me double check. I actually didn't see. I just saw that we were talking about Square Enix. Oh, it just says new Zelda. It doesn't even say what kind of Zelda game. It just says new Zelda.
He didn't specify if he wanted to do a remake. Like some of the other people said, I want to do a remake of Zelda 2, where he just said, I want to work on Zelda. So presumably it would just be a new game, like how Capcom did the Oracle games and then Minish Cap. But were you looking up a quote or something, Tubes? Or?
Oh no, what I was looking up, I was looking up to double check which game they said they wanted to redo, which they didn't. They want to do a new one. I think do it in Crystal Chronicles style. And then in that, I was also double checking. I am right. Crystal Chronicles was mentioned in a Nintendo Direct, which is why it kind of. I remember when they mentioned it, I popped up so hard. I loved that game so much. The art style, the music, the gameplay, amazing. So.
All right. So our number 5 on the list is kind of a mix. I tried to find the interviews, but I couldn't. I just remember hearing them on G4 TV when they were when that was a thing. But the director of God of War and the director of Darksiders, both games heavily influenced by Zelda, especially Darksiders. It basically copies the Zelda formula exactly. So like Darksiders is just like overworld, dungeon, mini boss, new item, complete dungeon, beat boss, go to overworld, go to dungeon, beat mini boss, repeat. So Darksiders copies it more closely than God of War does, but both people that were in charge at these two different companies in interviews stated that they basically always wanted to make a Zelda game. Like the God of War creator, basically he always wanted, like, he was inspired by Zelda. That was one of the games that made him want to develop a game, so he always wanted to, but he doesn't work for Nintendo, so he can't. So he made his own mature version of Zelda with his own spin. And it was basically the same thing with Darksiders. Whenever they made the Darksiders games, in Darksiders, I don't know if it was the original or part 2, there's a spot that's literally pulled directly from Skyward Sword, where you're in the Earth Temple or the Fire Sanctuary or whatever it is, to where you're rolling on the ball in the lava.
Oh, in the lava?
There's like that exact puzzle element is in one of the Darksiders games. And while I was playing it, I'm like, how did they not get called out for this? So,
I mean, but also like lots of other games have puzzles where you push blocks, I'm sure, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, but that's very funny. It's a bit on the nose.
Yeah. And then our last one that's kind of a bonus is that, like, people that want to make a Zelda game, basically just all of the, like, people that you see making all of the Unreal Engine games. Obviously they're doing it for fun and to show off their talent and stuff, and the reason they chose Zelda to remake is obviously, like, that's the game that they would want to work on. Otherwise they wouldn't be practicing with it or trying to actually make it by themselves. So that's the bonus, but the real 5th one is just that, like, Darksiders, the guy wants to make a Zelda game so bad apparently that he's using actual puzzles directly from Zelda, because they both came out around the same time too. And it's like, in both of them you're rolling around on a giant ball in the lava, and I'm like, I wonder what's going on here. Yeah. But yeah, that's basically all 5 of them, and now we can go on to the Zelda mailbag.
Woo!
So, Daniel or Tubes, one of you, feel free to do the mailbag intro and pick the first one.
Abigail, I did get my water. I also got pudding.
Nice.
Kind of pudding.
Chocolate.
Yeah.
So
I don't like anything vanilla.
everyone in the live chat, this is the Zelda mailbag where you can give us your question. So if you're watching live, especially if you're a Patreon supporter or you donate to the chat and you ask a question, we'll answer it immediately. But to start us off, we're going to pull questions from the mailbag where each...
Hey everyone, it's me again, Elia Rose. I I just wanted to say thank you so much for watching this video. And you know what? If you're a fan of videos like this, you should totally subscribe and give this video a like and comment below to let us know what type of videos you would like to see us create in the future. And if you would really like to support all of us here at the GameOverJesse channel, please consider purchasing a GameOverJesse t-shirt or becoming a Patreon at patreon.com/GameOverJesse, where you can receive many rewards, such as getting shoutouts, having any topic or theory that you select discussed on the podcast or made into its own video, having your question answered, joining on as a guest on the podcast, and playing with us during our Twitch live streams at twitch.tv/GameOverJesse, and much, much more.